Welcome to the Insurance Revolutionized podcast brought to you by Success Without Sacrifice. I am your host and coach, Cherie Sauer, and here on the podcast, we are on a mission to revolutionize the way women in insurance do business. We will be interviewing women who are changing the face of insurance, as well as giving you tips and inspiration to grow your agency to new heights without sacrificing what is most important to you. Let's get started. Hello, welcome back to the Insurance Revolutionized podcast. I have Melissa Dillon here with me today. She is the insurance exam queen, which we're going to hear all about what that is, and I'm excited to chat with her. We were just chatting here a few minutes ago, and Melissa is actually in labor with her first child on the way. But she was bored and she was like, please, let's do the podcast interview. She's not having any contractions. She's not in active labor. So we're going to have a fun conversation. Melissa, thank you so much for being here. Would you just tell our listeners a little about you and who you are and all of that good stuff?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So, as you said, I'm known as the insurance exam queen. So with the, in order to enter the insurance career, you have to take and pass an exam, and it can be really difficult for people to do that. And as a background is a middle school teacher and an insurance agent, I decided to help people pass the exam. So we have a YouTube channel with currently 16, right under 16,000 subscribers. We have a Facebook group with just under 7,000 followers, and we are helping people pass the exam with ease and confidence through my simple, easy to understand definitions and explanations. And it has been an amazing ride being the insurance exam queen. So I'm super excited to be here and to share, the insurance exam queen with you and whatever else we're talking about today.
Awesome. Okay, so Melissa, tell us, how did you get into insurance in the first place? Where did that start?
So I was in college and I was like, what is the best job that I could get that would pay me the most money? and I found insurance. So I actually got a call center job with USAA. I was making more money than any of my friends at the time. And it allowed me to go through college to get my degree in education. So then I was like, well, I loved insurance, but I, really wanted to be a teacher, which is what I went to school for. I tried to do both for as long as I could, but I ultimately had to quit insurance and went into teaching due to scheduling. But then I still tried. Like I found a weekend job selling insurance. I really wasn't happy in one or the other. When I was teaching, I wanted to do insurance. When I was doing insurance, I wanted to do teaching. And I was fortunate and blessed to discover the pre-licensing education field. So I actually got a job with a corporate company that teaches the pre-licensing material. And I quickly became the most requested instructor. So large companies like Hagerty or United Healthcare, they would hire about 30 people at a time and need them all to get trained and licensed really quickly. So they would hire me to come out. I would teach the material on the exam on like a Monday or Tuesday. And then we had everybody passing by Friday. My pass rates were just out the door good because my background is an educator. I went to school to be a teacher, where a lot of the instructors in this field are insurance agents. So because I had both insurance and teaching under my belt, it really kind of changed the game for me to be able to teach this exam to people and have a ton of success. So I spent about 4 years flying around the country, working for the corporate company, teaching, these insurance classes. And then in 2022, I really wanted to help more people than just their customer base. I wanted to do it in my way, with my creativity and not be restricted. So I started the Insurance Exam Queen business. We started as a YouTube channel and a Facebook group, and it has just completely taken off. And we currently have just right above 600 5-star reviews on our Google page, all citing how my materials and videos have helped people pass the exam. And it's just been an amazing ride.
Very cool. I love the intersection of your kind of your two passions. Like you weren't happy in one or the other. And so you figured out a way to make it so you could have fulfillment in both. I think that's awesome. I always love just hearing people's background and their stories of kind of where they came from and what they did and how they now use that in like a completely different way or in a different field. So I think it makes perfect sense that you were very successful in what you did compared to some of the other people because you knew how to teach. And that's a skill set that not everybody has. It's one thing to know the material. It's a different thing to be able to teach it effectively. And I actually, so as an athletic trainer, I loved teaching and mentoring students one-on-one, like hands-on, but creating material and standing up in front of a classroom to teach was a totally different ball game, and I hated it. I was not good at it, and I always joke that I do not have the heart of a teacher in the sense of, I mean, I love teaching and I love helping, but not in the sense of creating content and learning how to teach it in a really effective way. I'm more of like a, let's just get nitty gritty and down onto like the hands-on experience. So I love that you've brought that to the insurance world. So I'm guessing that what you do and what you're offering is kind of non-existent unless it's under a certain company, like you were working for before, or are there other people who are doing this?
There are some other people who offer some trainings. They sometimes are state approved, sometimes not, but I haven't found anybody who's really offering a full-blown YouTube channel and a supportive Facebook group. And that's I think what makes a big difference for us, because not only do we have our paid for courses, we offer support no matter what. Whereas a lot of the other companies that I've seen really just try to drive people to purchase their, webinars or classes.
Ah, interesting. So you're really serving first and then selling second, right? So if they need extra additional support or they want kind of the whole package to go all in, then they can do your paid courses.
Right. And so a lot of people, and if you check my Google reviews, will state I only used her YouTube videos to be able to pass, or I use the Facebook group to be able to pass. And then and then of course a lot of people cite that my paid for class series are the reason that they passed. So whether or not they come as a paid customer, we are taking care of them, providing them, with what they need, support, and as well as all the tutorials on the YouTube channel.
That's awesome. I'm curious for somebody listening who is maybe new to insurance and they're in the place where they're trying to figure out what they need to know for the exam or taking the exam. How do they who needs the courses versus who can do well just off of the Facebook groups and the YouTube channel?
So most states do require that you take a state approved course. About half the states require that you need a state approved course. And this is going to come from a company like Kaplan, Excel, ExamFX, 80 Banker are the most popular ones. And so you generally get that course. But the problem with those courses is they're very formal, very college level, difficult to understand. And even when they do have videos, because the thing is people don't really read by or learn by reading. We really only retain about 10% of what we read. And the majority of these courses are just all reading. Some of them have videos, but even when they do have videos, it's very, minimal reading a PowerPoint, not intense teaching. So people end up struggling with these courses, and they may be able to pass the practice exams and the quizzes, but when they go to take the state exam, they end up failing, and they don't know why, because they passed the practice exam. And this is where one of the biggest myths come in, is that if you pass the practice exam and take it over and over again and score 90%, you'll be able to pass the state exam. That rarely works for people. It does work for some people who are just naturally good test takers and who can decipher, I took this practice question and I can reword it and understand this actual exam question. But most people really struggle to actually be able to use these state approved courses. So what happens is they will use a state approved course thinking it's all they need because it's all they're given. Their insurance manager will say, take this course, pass your test. So when they fail, they end up going to YouTube to try and find tutorials or searching Google for help. And that's where they end up finding me. And what I offer is majority of videos. So I'm actually teaching the material using audio and visual to be able to explain the information in a way that makes sense. We simplify things. We use real life stories. We use a ton of visuals, lots of audio. So we're engaging with them beyond the reading, and that's what most people need. So you need a state approved course, and then obviously I recommend supplementing that with what I offer. I have a couple of different packages. My gold is always the best, but you can even just use the YouTube videos to help you with quick explanations of these topics. But I think what's most important for people when they're studying for the exam is, one, knowing what is actually going to be tested. Just because your online course covers all of this material doesn't mean that's actually going to show up on your exam. So I like to help people narrow down what's actually going to show up. And the other thing is bypassing that myth that if I study practice questions and pass my practice exams over and over again, I'll be able to pass the state exam. That just doesn't really work for the majority of people.
I'm curious why that is, because in most like testing stuff, when I had to sit and be licensed in healthcare, if you did well and you did those practice exams, then you passed the test. And if you didn't do those practice exams, you did not pass the test. So that's really interesting to me that people are taking the practice exams and not passing the test. Why do you think that is?
There's a lot of laws in place that regulate how test provider companies and education companies are allowed to, like, companies that provide state approved course are not allowed to have the exact same questions. And if they do, they get shut down. So they have different questions than what you're actually going to see. And if you don't have a basic understanding of how to, like, what people will do is they will just, and these companies, they only have so many questions, right? Their question banks are only so big. So what you end up doing is you take quizzes repeatedly that you just begin to memorize the answers, but you're not learning the concepts behind it. You do need to be able to pass your exams and show that you've learned the material, but what you don't want to do is simply memorize the practice exams without understanding the material. That's where the problem comes in. And unfortunately, so many people in the insurance industry will just constantly stress practice exam, practice exam, practice exam, and it just does not work for the majority of people because the test questions are just simply not the same between the practice companies and the actual state exams. There's also 3 major exam companies, so like the people that you actually take your test with, and they all write their questions kind of differently. But the practice exam courses, they write their questions a certain way. So you just, some courses better line up with some states, but the majority of them just don't. And so when you listen to that bad advice of, I'm just going to take practice exams over and over again, and people believe they're going to pass, and they go in there with a 50, and they come out with a failing grade, they're very demoralized. They're very, sad and upset. And then they begin to think that insurance isn't for them because they had so much success in their practice course, but on the actual exam, they're failing. So then they think, well, this just isn't for me. And they end up leaving the insurance industry. I think that's where it's so important. What I offer is there's so many well-qualified, educated, incredible salespeople that could be working in insurance, but because they can't pass this exam, we lose them. And my goal is not to lose them, to keep them.
Yeah, well, and that just really speaks to the heart of being a teacher, right? Well, yeah. So what are three kind of tips that you have? I don't know if you could narrow it down to three, but what are just some tips that you have for somebody who is getting ready to take their exam, whether it's a study tip or, whatever it is, whatever you want to share with them to help them to be successful?
Yeah, absolutely. And the first one is going to be mindset always. So what your mindset is going in to both studying and taking the exam is crucial. Because if you are afraid, because this is what happens, you open the book, you log into your online course, you see pages and pages worth of reading, words and definitions that you don't understand, and people immediately get afraid and overwhelmed and think that it's too much. So you need to actually go in excited to want to study and excited to pass and excited to move into your insurance career. So one of the biggest things I focus on is mindset. I have an entire playlist dedicated to mindset. So it's being excited to study, being excited to take the test, and being excited to be an insurance agent. When that becomes your focus, it's not as difficult to study. But if you go in afraid, you go in with anxiety, you go in with overwhelm, it's a lot harder to retain the information. If you're stressed out and you go to study, you're going to retain, like maybe 10% of what you're reading. If you go in excited and you go in happy, you're going to retain a lot more information because your brain is not stressing out. So mindset is super important. The next thing is knowing what's actually going to show up on your exam. Again, just because it's in the online course doesn't mean it's something that is highly tested. Every state actually shows how many questions will come from each chapter. And you can find this in the exam content outline. And I have a couple different YouTube videos for the different exams showing you how to find that. So like, for instance, on the life and health exam, um, taxes is a difficult topic for everybody, but it's so small. It only is a handful of questions, and you don't really need to know it really well. When it comes to the property and casualty side, unless you're in the state of Alabama, sorry, Alabama people, but commercial is generally a smaller part of the exam. But when you look at your online studies, commercial makes up half of the material. But it's like a needle in a haystack trying to figure out, when you're looking at hundreds of pages worth of studying and they're only going to ask you 10 questions, that means that 10 pages worth of studying will boil down to one question. How do you know what they're going to ask you on that? And so I encourage people to not focus on the material that is either hard to get or doesn't show up very, very often. So know what is actually tested, know what you need to spend your time on, and know what you don't need to spend your time on. And that is what I help people with. And then the third tip is to get my stuff because it works. It's very effective. So we either have the YouTube videos, and multiple people have cited just the YouTube videos have been enough, but we do offer class packages ranging from $27 to $97. A bunch of videos that will teach you the most tested, most common topics in an easy to understand way. And it's just a very great complement to your state approved course. And in fact, many people they have to get a state approved course because it's required. They have to pass the quizzes and the tests on it. But most people use just my videos to learn. They bypass the reading. They use my videos, they take the practice exams, and they're able to not only pass their course, they're able to then pass the state exam.
I'm curious. So when you're talking about different states, do you touch on, because there's obviously different laws, different things for each state, right? So if they take a course or they're watching your videos, are you specifying like per state, or what is that? How does that work?
So the majority of the information is the same across all of the states. The state law chapter is the one chapter that really is unique and different. However, a good chunk of it is the same. The Department of Insurance, the commissioner, examinations, unfair trade practices, those are all the same. And I have a class on that. And then I tell people what numbers to focus on, like definitely know how many hours of continuing education you need, how long is your license good for. So I will point to them what numbers are important, but then they would need to go to their state approved course to find their numbers. So because I taught for 4 years flying all around the country, I know what shows up. I know what people actually see on their exams, and I know what they need to know to pass. And that's why my supplemental material works in every state. Now, there are a couple of states like North Carolina, which is pretty unique. And I actually have a section in my class series that will explain what's different about North Carolina. But again, so much information is the same, and it's the information that you actually see on the exam, and that's what I focus on.
Gotcha. So really anybody can come to you and use your materials. It doesn't matter where they're based out of.
Correct. Any state, life, health, property, casualty, personal lines. And honestly, we've even helped adjusters. I've never taken the adjuster's exam myself or know anything about it, but apparently a big chunk of the information is exactly the same as property and casualty. So I ended up helping a whole market that I had no intention of or even knowing that I could help.
That's I just love when that works. It's the same for, like, I had no intention on focusing on insurance agency owners. It just kind of fell into my lap, like that. When you decide to do something and you put it out there, it's amazing just what comes to fruition. So one thing I want to talk a little bit more about is you talked about mindset, and I want to talk about this a little bit because I think so many, and I think there's more talk of it now, but I think people don't realize how much mindset actually affects everything, whether that's taking an exam or it's business or healing. And so I have a master's degree in sports psychology. I worked with high performing athletes for 14 years. And one of the most common things that we saw was when somebody would injure their ACL, so a ligament in their knee, that's the main stabilizer, it's a 6 to 9 month recovery. And toward the end of that recovery, their strength would be there. And this was most common in females, not nearly as common in males. Like, I can't even think of one male that this actually ever happened to. And not that men don't deal with mindset issues, but women and the females that we worked with, they would get to that point where they were strong enough, they were ready physically to get out on the field, but they were afraid that they were going to re-injure themselves. They were afraid that they weren't going to be as good as they were before, or they're not going to be fast enough, or they're not going to get their starting spot back. And so I would focus a lot on mindset with them and really like helping them to visualize themselves being back out on the field and doing the things they needed to do. Because what happens is if you go out on the field or you enter that exam and you have fear or you're afraid, you are going to get what you focus on. Yep. And you're going to be more tentative in your movements. So physically, if you go out on the field and you're a soccer player and you are afraid to pivot, or to, if you're a volleyball player, to jump and come down, that fear is physically going to change what your body does. And those are the people who, they actually don't end up re-injuring the injured knee. They end up injuring the other knee. And so I just think this is such a fascinating concept. I love that you're focusing not only on here's what you need to know, but here's the mindset that you need to be successful. And here's how you can shift that mindset, because it's so easy to get stuck in this is overwhelming, or I can't do this. And, and you're able to break it up into, bite-sized pieces is what I'm hearing, in order to really help them to be successful and to know exactly what they need. And, overwhelm is the thief of progress.
Yes.
So I don't know if you have anything else that you want to touch on that as far as the mindset goes. But I just wanted to point that out because people want to they get so, even as business owners, right? We can get so stuck on the to-do list that we forget we have to become that person first before we're going to experience that success. And that's something I've experienced in my own life. So I just want to open that up for conversation. If you have anything that you want to touch on that, in regards to the exam, and then even just as a business owner as well.
Yeah, no, it's extremely important. Mindset determines everything. It's your perspective and how you perceive things. You can perceive things as as hard, or you can perceive it as a challenge to grow. So one of the things, having been a middle school teacher and working in the school system for so long, I see how much we actually, I don't know the best word for it, but we really demoralize people in the school system. We make failing the worst thing that you can do. And so when you instead of seeing failure as feedback or failure as growth, we see failure as the end of the line, the end of the road. So when people get their exam score sheet back and it has the word fail on it, it literally devastates them. And in fact, that's one of the most common words that I've seen people use when they don't pass is devastated. And an exam that doesn't determine life or death shouldn't devastate you. You know what I mean? So it's not life or, I mean, there are people whose jobs rely on the exam. Like, I understand that. But that added pressure of, if you see that word failure and you doom yourself, it can be hard to get out of. So that's why I focus on mindset so important. What you focus on will grow. What you turn your attention to will be your experience. It's very similar to the placebo effect. You talked about, the knee injuries. They literally, you can Google this. I don't know the exact name of the study or anything like that, but they had like 10 people who all had an injury to their knee. And they told all 10 people that they would be receiving the surgery that they need to fix their knee. And they cut everyone. So everyone had a scar, everyone had stitches, but they actually only performed the surgery on 5 of the people. And the other 5 did not actually receive the surgery. They only got a scar on their leg. All 10 people recovered. All 10 people had, success, thinking that they had the surgery. So the belief, the placebo effect of I received what I needed to get help, or I see the scar, so that means I had the surgery. It was enough for their bodies to actually heal themselves and to do what the surgery would have done. They literally did it mentally because of the belief that they had in their minds. So what we believe to be true is what we will end up experiencing in our life, whether that's in love, money, business, jobs, exams, whatever you believe to be true, whatever you focus on, that is what will come to fruition. Your mind will always find evidence of what it is that you believe. And people don't understand they get to switch their beliefs. They get to change what they believe. Most of what we believe is what other people told us, and we just believe it to be true. And then we find evidence of it because we hold that belief. But you can switch your belief. You can have a new belief. Even for my career, I only ever saw this happening in a corporate world. I didn't see anybody doing this on their own, making money. How would I find customers? How would insurance companies, get to know me and want to hire me? But I decided that the belief of, if I feel passionate about this, if I am skilled in this, all I need to do is put myself out there and the success will come. The people will come, the customers will come, the money will come. And I held that belief so strongly. And every day I would even just say it out loud. I would say, the customers are coming and knocking down on my door. Everyone needs help with their exam and they're all coming to me. I would just repeat phrases like that to myself. And the business has been wildly successful. And it's all related to, my mindset. There are other people who can teach as well as I do. I've met them, but they believe they need to work in a corporate company in order to, have any type of business or money. I don't believe that I have to work for a corporate company. I believe I can do this on my own. I believe that the people will show up. And I didn't even follow the rules of YouTube. YouTube says you need edited videos. YouTube says you need all of these different things. And I have 0 edited videos. I literally just turn on my camera, start talking, and turn it off. I wasn't following the rules of posting consistently like you're supposed to. And yet people were just flooding in. And like I said, it was 1 year ago today that I celebrated being eligible for monetization on YouTube. And now a year later, we have over At that time, you needed 1,000 subscribers to get monetized. I now have 16,000 subscribers. And from YouTube alone, I've made $20,000 just from the videos. But from there, people come to my website and buy sale, but they buy my courses. We're now a $40,000 a month company. So, and I'm not a business owner. I'm a teacher, like I didn't know what I was doing. I just had the mindset that if I go after what I'm passionate about, if I do the burning passion in my heart to teach people this exam and to help them, everything else will fall into place. Whether I knew what business steps to take, I didn't have a marketing plan. I didn't do market research. I didn't do anything other than just get on video and start talking and hold the belief that it would all work out. And it has, and it's continued to grow, and it's just been wonderful. And it all comes down to mindset.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I love all that. I love the I love that you're like, I didn't do what YouTube said I needed to do, and I didn't edit, and I didn't post consistently. And I think it can be so easy to get caught up in the shoulds, right? Like, this is what everyone says you have to do, when really, if you start with the belief, and the belief, like, it has to be a belief in your core, right? Like, you can say something over and over, but it just, like, a friend of mine says that, it's like you're saying something, an affirmation in the mirror, and it just bounces back to you. And that goes down to, like, believing it in your core and overcoming the limiting beliefs and figuring out, like, what's holding you back, what's stopping you, right? And I love that you didn't have it all figured out. You just started and you just did it. And I want to talk a little bit about numbers here just for a second. And you already mentioned that 20,000 just from YouTube, just from getting followers. And one, because you're providing value to people. You're providing something that they need. People need this, right? They're looking for it. And one thing I wanted to touch on too is you mentioned the failure. And I saw that my son was in a charter school. We homeschool now, but he was in a charter school, which was great, but it's all achievement focused. And there's nothing wrong with that, except for him, we didn't know at the time he had a learning disability, but he would come home because they would have to get through these courses of, like, reading. Okay, you got to level 1, you got to level 2. And so the kids who were, excelling and getting through all the levels would get these, like, little achievement certificates. And he would come home and he'd be like, I'm trying as hard as I can. How come I'm not getting, like, rewarded and getting these things? Like, I'm trying as hard as I can. It's not that he wasn't trying. It was that he wasn't getting the right support. And we ended up pulling him out after COVID, so in 2nd grade, and he was so defeated, so completely defeated. And he would say, I'm stupid and I can't do this. And then I was like, it just crushed my heart. I was like, buddy, you are not stupid. You are so far from stupid. And so that failure, like, that's so deeply ingrained in us. And that fear of failure, again, that, like, mindset, if you have that fear of failure and you're going into it with the fear of failure, you are not going to be successful, whether that's taking an exam or it's in business or whatever it is. And so it took us, he's finally at a point now where he doesn't say that anymore. And it's because he's not in that environment where he's having to compare himself to keeping up with a certain standard of what everybody else is doing. And just that comparison too. So I just love that you touched on that, especially from a teacher's perspective of, we're so focused on failure being a bad thing, when really failure is growth. Like, that's where we have growth. So anything that you
it's just feedback.
Yes.
Failure is feedback. So if he's not passing what he needs to do, there's something part of the system towards what he's doing that needs adjusted, whether that's the way that they're teaching or how he accesses the materials, or it's just feedback. So when we say, okay, I failed the exam, and and this is something too, like, people will say, oh my God, I missed it by 2 points. I'm so stupid. How could I have missed it by 2 points? I'm like, celebrate that you're only 2 points away. You've got to flip that mindset. But it's so hard because we have all gone through the school system that failure is the worst thing. We praise people who immediately pass, praise people who immediately have success, and then we put down those who are not achieving as quickly or as fast as everyone else. But that's the thing, is not everybody learns the same way. And that's why these state approved courses, which require everyone to just read material, don't work for everybody. People need audio, people need visuals, people need some hands-on. And I try to encompass all of that in my class series. Having been a teacher, I understand differentiation, and I understand everyone comes with different learning abilities. And I'll offer various different explanations and metaphors for the same topic to kind of hit everybody who needs to, learn this. So, but yeah, the failure mindset and being devastated and defeated is so common, not just in the exam space, but pretty much everywhere. And that was something that I had to overcome myself to be able to start my own business. And like you said, you can say affirmation, and I love affirmations. I say affirmations all the time, but it required also doing therapy and healing work on the fact that I had been traumatized as a child with the belief system that I'm dumb or stupid or incapable of achieving what it is that I wanted. And when you get to make terms with that and understand that these beliefs that you have, that you're dumb or stupid or incapable, came from someone else and are not necessarily the truth, that's when you begin to really make the shifts and the affirmations really begin to land, and you're able to switch your beliefs over.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. And it's, I think in today's world, we can get really focused on if you just speak it out, it'll come. And it's like, no, you've got to do internal work. You've got to do a lot of internal work to really overcome a lot of those limiting beliefs. And people get stuck in that, or just don't have the awareness, or maybe just don't want to take the step forward in doing that type of work, because it's hard. It can be really hard, but it's also amazing on the other side of it.
Yeah, incredibly rewarding. Yes. Like even your name, Success Without Sacrifice. I love that, because so many of us have a belief that we need to work hard, that we need to sacrifice in order to have any level of achievement. And that is what was required of us in the school system. But I can tell you, I have never been more free in my schedule, in my day, in my life. I have never felt less worked since starting my own business. I didn't give up anything to have this business. I didn't, bust my butt trying to do things that were, just busy work or keeping, like, I sacrificed nothing other than my old beliefs, the beliefs that I had to struggle, the beliefs that I couldn't do it, the beliefs that, as a woman, I wouldn't have success, or, the not having a stable paycheck, that was a huge, scary belief. And that's something that's so important for insurance agents, is I have so many people who are like, well, I need a job with a paycheck. I'm like, you don't really. In insurance, you can make so much money when you're not as a W-2, like when you're working on commission only. There's so much fear around commission only because it's not steady or secure, but it can be because it's determined by what you do, not what anyone else is doing, so there's so many mental blocks that people have. And that's, and I speak to all of that when I'm in my videos. So I have people who will study the exam, use my videos, and then continue to follow me because they just like what I have to say about mindset and about your life, and how we don't need to give into all of these belief systems about hard work and sacrifice and, limiting beliefs of how far we can achieve and what we can do.
Yeah. I was like, stop shoulding all over yourself. Stop doing the
Yes.
shoulds. The shoulds will kill you. The shoulds are what keep you stuck in an overwhelm. Yeah. And I love that. So your business is at 40K months within 1 year of starting this.
Well, We're a year and a half. So
Okay,
within 1 year, we were up to 20K, 30K months, just to clarify.
Okay. But you're now at 40K months after
Correct.
a year. Yeah.
Yep.
Which I think is incredible. And, you know, and like people enter in business and they think they're going to see overnight success. And I would say like for you, that's pretty quick success. Like a lot of people, sometimes takes 5 to 7 years to be fully profitable and to support their family. But that also, again, comes back down to like, are you just stuck in the doing, or are you actually getting into your beliefs and getting into that belief that you can do it? Because we get so stuck in the busy work. And you said, I didn't get in the busy work. I didn't do the busy work. Right. And I just love that you pointed out that you are at a place where you have never had more freedom. You don't feel like you're having to sacrifice anything that you don't want to in order to have the success. And I just love these stories because we all need to hear inspirational stories of like, oh, it is possible. It's just a matter of figuring out how is it possible. And people get so stuck on well, I have to get leads. I have to figure out leads. I have to figure out, I have to do. When if you just pause and you stop and you take a step back and figure out what's actually holding me back and dig into that and that mindset and those beliefs. And that's where you started your business. And that's what I hear. Like, that's the difference for you, right? Is you started with the belief first instead of just getting into the to-do list and the busy work.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, beliefs are everything, because again, whatever you believe to be true, your mind will prove it to be true. And you get to change what you believe, and you will find new evidence of that belief being true. So I for a long time believed I could only make 40 to 60,000 a year because that's what teachers made. And the belief that I could make more than that was a stretch, but when I was like, okay, yes, I can do this. And I saw other people doing it. And I was like, okay, if they can, I can too. I even was like, if a girl, I think her name's Kylie Jenner, can sell lipstick and be a billionaire or whatever, then why not me? So, and that's another thing, is like, if them, me too, instead of listing all the reasons why not me, I was like, if there's evidence in the world that it's possible, then it's possible for me too.
Yes. Yeah. It's, I come from a background of like a scarcity mindset of, on and off food stamps and, are the lights going to be on? Are they not going to be on? And so that was like very ingrained in me. And I've never made more than this. I can't make more than this. And even when I tried to even if I had the desire, right? Like, I want to make this amount of money, it just wasn't happening. It didn't matter what I did. And it wasn't until I started to learn that I had to really dive into where is a scarcity mindset coming from and why is it there? And then overcoming that and working through that, that, it wasn't, and it's a journey, it's a process a lot of times. It's not always a destination. And just when I think like, oh, I'm through it, and then it comes up again, I'm like, why is this still here? Right. And so I think it's just really important to point that out, because I hear so often business owners, either they're comparing themselves to somebody, well, she did it, right? Like, yes, we can see other people and have the belief, or you get stuck in well, why is it working for her and not for me? And you get what you focus on. And so if you're focused on why is it not working for me, it's going to continue to not work for you. So I love that you just talked about the perspective and shifting that perspective. We're big on that too. And just the tiny shift in perspective can make a world of difference, right? And I mean, that applies to like anything in life or business. Melissa, what is just kind of one piece of advice that you have to help women in the insurance industry to really not only succeed, but to thrive, not to be sacrificing themselves? What is just kind of one or two tips that you have?
So one of the things that just came to me is one of the beliefs that I hold very strongly. And something that I've had to work really hard at harnessing it as a belief is that everything is working out for me in my favor. And this is something I tell people even when they fail the exam, and even if they lose the job opportunity, because like some companies will hire you and they'll give you like 1 or 2 attempts to pass the exam, and if you don't, then they let you go. But that's not necessarily the end of the road. You can get another company, you can study yourself, you can become independent. So I always tell people, whatever happens, believe that it is working out for your greatest good, even if it doesn't make sense right now. So it may seem like, oh, I lost this job opportunity, but what if that job opportunity wasn't actually that great? Your first introduction to the insurance industry may not be the best opportunity. And now that you're introduced to the industry, now you can do research and find a better opportunity that's more in alignment with what you actually want. So when we see failures as more of a pivot towards what we actually want instead of derailing us, that's a mindset shift belief, then we get to what it is that we want. We have to trust and know and believe that whatever comes our way is getting us more in aligned with what we actually want. So like even when I started my own business, my primary understanding of this was teaching 30 people at one time at a large insurance company. Like I thought that's how I would end up making my money because that's what I was doing. And I don't do any of that. I have yet to work for an insurance company. I'm helping out individuals who are studying for this exam. So when I first got started and I actually had an insurance company reach out to me, and it ended up falling through, instead of like, oh my gosh, I just lost this opportunity, this was my only way to make money, I'm going to fail in this business, I said, okay, well, what else can I focus on? What else is going right? And I just trusted and believed that that opportunity fell through for a reason, and to just keep doing what I was doing and to trust that it is all working out. So and I literally repeat this to myself, and this is about love life, personal life, finances, everything. Everything is working out for my favor all the time. Everything is working out in my favor all the time. Everything is working out for my favor all the time. No matter what the situation is, I hold the belief that it will work in my favor, even if it doesn't make sense right now. Someday I'll be able to look back and understand why it happened the way that it did to lead me to where I am right now. And I will be grateful and thankful that it happened, even though at the time it sucked. I trust that it's leading me to something better. And in every situation I can look back in my life, I see that to be true.
100%. Yes, I 100% agree with that. I actually, so I had left my former career in sports medicine, and then I became a stay-at-home mom. I did that for about 4 months and was like, nope, this isn't for me. Went back to work for about a year, got let go from there, and it was like devastating. I loved it. And but it allowed me to start my own business. I had started a self-care gift box company, and I wasn't making enough money off of it at the time, so I ended up having to go get a part-time job, and I was really mad and like resentful about it. Like I didn't want to do it. I was like, okay, like why? I want to be making money off of my business, right? This is what I want to do. And in that job that I didn't want, I was very resentful. I wasn't making a ton of money, but what happened was so much healing, like physical healing. So it was at a holistic chiropractic clinic. And looking back, I was like, it wasn't that job had nothing to do with finances. It really had, it was all about healing, physical healing, and getting me to the place where to dive into some things that I needed to have physical, mental, and emotional healing, really. And so when I left there, my boss at the time, she was like, if we were able to pay you more, you would stick around. And I said, and she just had this guilt on her. And I was like, you know what? I said, you gave me so much more than like a paycheck here. That's really like, I'm just so grateful that I got to be here and experience this. And, and so it is, you can, in the moment, it's frustrating, but when you look back and you see the ways that you've grown and the challenges is where growth is. And so I love everything is working out in my favor all the time. And I'm a big person on like even the things that finding gratitude even in the things you most resent, because it will shift your mindset and the way you start to view things. And that's where like real happiness and joy comes from, right? But when we get so focused on the negative, that's really what keeps us stuck. So much good, so much good stuff, Melissa. Any last things that you want to say, whether it's in reference to the exam or to somebody getting ready to take the exam, or to another insurance agent, anything that you want to share?
Just, be excited. The insurance, I love the insurance industry, and I love that I get to be a part of it, even though I'm not actually selling insurance. I've always geeked out about insurance. As I like to tell people, teaching is who I am and insurance is my passion. So it's an amazing career field. I have seen it lift people out of poverty. I have seen it allow single mothers to never miss a sports game with their kids and yet have plenty of money for all the bills. And it's just, it's an amazing career. And all you have to do is pass an exam to get into it. And a belief system that you can do it. And it is more than possible.
I love it. I just had one thing that came up as you said that, as we were talking about mindset, is sales. Because as you said, you just have to pass an exam. And then I was like, oh, but there's also the sales, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I can't sell. I can't do that. So do you have any words of advice on that, or anything you want to say about that?
It's just a mindset. We all have the mindset of a used car salesman is creepy. And then we feel like we're going to be a used car salesman. But at the end of the day, you're actually protecting people. You're protecting their assets. You're protecting their livelihoods. And everyone is just one story away from understanding the importance of insurance. I mean, everyone needs it, whether, home and auto, you have to have it. Life, if anyone relies upon you financially, you have to have it. Health, again, if anyone relies upon you, you need that disability insurance. These are products that people need, and they may not understand what's available, and all you have to do is educate them on what's available and how it protects them, and they will ask you, how do I sign up? But again, sales is just a mindset. If you see it as a dirty, scary thing, it'll be a dirty, scary thing. But if you see it as a way of, helping people with their financial, because the insurance is the financial industry, you are protecting people's assets, and you're protecting people's livelihood, and you get to just simply educate them on what's available and offer them that support, and they sign up with you. So not only are you protecting their assets, you're lining your pockets as well. I don't know of a better industry, honestly, that really helps people, because again, if you're one emergency away from financial ruin, insurance is what fixes that. Insurance is what takes care of that. So we all need it. And I actually do have a friend. She is my best friend in the whole world, and she now goes by the insurance sales queen. She was a single mom, working, low wage jobs. And I kept telling her, just get into insurance, get into insurance, get into insurance. And she finally did right before COVID happened. So she would have been let go from her job because she worked at a mall. She would have been let go, unable to, bring in any income. But because she had just gotten her insurance license, she moved into an incredible job with incredible benefits, and has loved it and has been extremely successful. And she now teaches sales classes, and helps people with their sales mindset. So that's the insurance sales queen.
Oh, that's awesome. What is her name?
Mary Kathleen on Facebook, at least.
Okay. Oh, well, you'll have to connect us, and I'd love to interview her if she's interested in being a guest.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be great. And it's interesting that you say the single moms. I've done a couple interviews already that haven't been released that you guys will hear, of several women who entered the insurance business because they were single moms and had to find a way to make income and wanted that work-life balance at the same time. So yeah, incredible opportunity. And actually there's a later today, I'm doing an interview with somebody who hires all moms, which I think is just really fun. So excited to talk to her. And yeah, I just love the insurance industry. The more I learn about it, the more just fascinated I am by it and intrigued by it, and just really love that I get to work in this space as well. So Melissa, will you tell everybody where they can connect with you?
Yeah. So if you were to just literally Google search Insurance Exam Queen, you'll find me everywhere. We have a YouTube channel, Insurance Exam Queen. We have my website, insuranceexamqueen.com. And you can just always email me, insuranceexamqueen@gmail.com. And we have our Facebook group, Insurance Exam Queen. So you can find us all. The only place I think I'm not is Instagram. But, yeah, literally just Google Insurance Exam Queen. You'll find me.
Awesome. We'll put all of those in the show notes. And Melissa, thank you again for being here. And we wish you all the best luck and thoughts and prayers coming at you as you go into labor in the next couple of days and birth that beautiful baby. I can't remember. Do you know if you're having a girl or a boy?
It's a girl, but
okay,
Dad is really hoping it's a boy still. So.
You never do know. You never know. My sister had 2 boys, and then she had a third one, and they told her it was a girl, and she's like, I'm not believing it. I'm not believing it until the baby comes out. And it did end up being a girl. But anyway, well, thank you again for being here. For those of you who are still listening, we are going to be hosting a mastermind coming up October 10th of 2023. It's a combination of one-on-one coaching, and we're going to do group incubators where agency owners get to come together, learn from one another, and learn from experts in the industry. So that's just a little teaser. We'll give more information here coming up in the future, but just wanted to throw that out there. If that's something that interests you, please reach out to us and we will give you more details. Thank you for listening today, everybody. Thanks again, Melissa, for being here, and we will chat next time.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Insurance Revolutionized podcast today. We know there is a lot on your plate, so it means the world to us that you stopped in to give us a listen. We hope you will join us each week as we dive into topics such as mindset, goal setting, productivity, self-care, and so much more. We want to inspire more women to have success without sacrificing what is most important to them, and we need your help. If this podcast has inspired you, would you do us a favor? Would you take a minute to leave us a rating and a review or share with your friends? Let's change the face of insurance for women. Until next time.